ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm Terry Price.
And I am Harold Presley.
And you've tuned into The Spook Show. Welcome. Thank you for coming and listening to our podcast.
Yes, we started this several weeks ago, and we're having a lot of fun. Had a lot of interesting stories, and people come on and everything. And we're just a couple of guys. It's we call it the regular guy look at spooky, paranormal stuff you just can't explain. Maybe have trouble going to sleep afterwards, like I do sometimes.
Yeah,
I listen to our own podcast. I mean, we've done these. I listen to it. If I listen to it at night, I'm going like, I got to turn this off. I can't sleep. I'm not going to be able to sleep, even though I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to be said. So, but anyway, you got stories, and we encourage you big time to send us your stories. Now, you know, sometimes you have these stories and you share them with people, and then they tell you you're nuts or crazy. You don't know what you're talking about.
That's right.
Don't worry about that with us. We're not going to ever say that to you. Not ever think that, and we won't even say your name or anything. But we want to hear if you got several stories like that. Email them to us, send them to us. You know, we'll talk about them ourselves on the air, and we'll do that right here on our podcast, pricepresley@gmail.com. Just email that, say that email, and send us stuff when you get it.
That's right. We got to have your stories, because without your stories, we don't have a show.
That's right.
I mean, it's that simple.
We want to share them with everybody.
And we're still looking for stories for Ouija boards.
Any kind.
That's really weird. Nobody has sent us their stories.
There's stories out there. I
boards.
think they're just afraid to share.
I know they are.
I know personally people. I'm going to get them to come on and tell their Ouija board story. So we're going to have something for too long.
And we need UFO stories. We need Bigfoot stories. We need, Dogman stories, whatever kind of stories
you like
got.
a dog man. I saw a little bit of that. I was watching some YouTube stuff the other day about that. And I kind of got creeped out about it. It was kind of scary, you know.
Yeah, the Dogman stuff is even scarier than the Bigfoot stuff. You know?
So we'll see about that. Now make sure you follow us and give us a like on our YouTube page, Price Presley Spook Show, there, and also our Facebook page as well.
That's right. There'll be a link in the descriptions down at the bottom. And
and speaking of UFOs.
Yeah, well, speaking of UFOs, we have not done a UFO episode yet, and we just happen to have a former military person.
Yes.
That has been
some encounters,
willing to share his story. Now, you know, recently in the news, the military has released a lot of stuff on UFOs, saying we don't know if it's aliens, but that's the thing, we don't know what they are.
And that's what it is, unidentified flying object, and I think they call them something else now.
UAVs.
But they just can't identify it. It doesn't mean it's alien, they just don't know what it is, okay? Right. I've been watching this show. It's called UFO.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it's got
because they talk about all this stuff, and they cover everything. They cover from every angle. People that are skeptical, people that believe everything, and all the military stuff has been released in the last few years. They share that, and it's really interesting. So get a chance to check that out as well, and then come back and listen to our show.
Yeah, that's right. And you can get our show at YouTube, and you can find the link on Facebook, or we are on just about every platform that has podcasts.
You can find us somewhere.
Yeah.
Just remember Price Presley Spook Show.
Yeah, at the link on Linktree there in the descriptions will take you to those other places. All right.
Now, who we got with us? We
got Jay with us today.
Jay.
Agent Jay.
Yeah, let's call him Agent Jay. Yes, we can't give his identity because
military and all that sort of stuff. He doesn't want us to, tell his real name, but that's okay. That's what we're trying to tell you, folks. Is we won't tell your real name if you don't want us to.
You'll be anonymous, okay? Agent Jay's with us. You there, Jay?
Yeah, just after this, just so you know, be sure to look into the flashy thing.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I got my shades on right now, so I can't see anything, okay?
Well, welcome to the show, Jay. We appreciate you coming on. We know it's kind of difficult to tell these stories because people automatically assume that, a lot of people will automatically assume that you're crazy, but your story, when you told it to me, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, it does. And now, is this something you saw while you were performing your duties? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that needless to say. And the funny thing is that it's not the first time I've seen something like that. That was I think one other time that I had in the military doing it, but I did, experience that stuff growing up in the various places I lived at.
But
this one was the most profound.
Well, okay. Why don't you fill us in a little bit of what branch of the military you were in? And I mean, obviously there's probably stuff you can't talk about, but why don't you fill us in and let us know? And then you can start from your very first experience all the way through.
Yeah, and work your way up to the big encounter.
Okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I retired out of the Air Force, was in it for a good while, enjoyed kind of going all different places. It's kind of funny. they say join the Navy, you see the world. I saw more of the world as an Air Force guy than I did anybody I met that was in the Navy. So,
Oh, wow.
but my particular job had me working in a variety of functions, different roles. But growing up, I grew up in around northeastern Oklahoma, and that was where I
Really?
kind of started experiencing some of my first stuff, I would say. And
You grew up in Oklahoma?
oh yeah,
Where,
don't hold that against me.
would you mind telling us where?
It was actually outside of a town called Arcadia.
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 I
It's
know.
famous for its big red round barn that you pass by in a split second.
Yeah, I've been through Arcadia. I grew up in Oklahoma as well. That's why I'm curious. Of course, I grew up in southeast Oklahoma. So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
And of course, being a kid, you kind of stay up late at night sometimes because you don't feel like going to sleep.
Yeah.
And being a country bumpkin, I used to kind of like just kind of open the window. I just kind of sit there, look out everything, and I try to see count. You see a shooting star or whatnot. And the first one, I remember it was on a night. It was around fall time, so I want to say probably October-ish, something like that. I was probably 9 or 10 years old at the time. And I remember just having to glance up, and I thought what I saw was a shooting star going across. I thought, well, wow, that's going awfully slow, but it's like right overhead. And then I noticed there was 2 more popping up next to it. And then I got to looking, of course, being, don't like light pollution. I got to looking at it, and it was still there. It's just kind of gliding across the sky. And it looked like this big, dark, like triangle.
Yeah.
Or kind of triangle mixed with an iron, kind of that base, the way that looked.
Yeah.
And it was darker than the night sky. And I remember just kind of watching it, and it just, everything. You couldn't even hear crickets. That's what I thought was so odd.
So it's close enough you can make out the shape of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you don't have a whole lot of light pollution, it's amazing what you can see. I was once stationed up in Alaska, and the stuff you can see in a pitch black night up in the sky, it would actually blow your mind.
Yeah.
You can totally make it out.
Wow.
But it was there for like 15, 20 minutes, and it just kind of just kept going. Didn't do anything else. It just kind of hovered, and every now and then you could see another flickering light. And I thought maybe a military aircraft or something. I was really big into it when I was a kid, because we had air bases nearby, obviously, in the vicinity, and that was kind of along the path they typically took. But this didn't match anything I'd seen before.
Yeah.
And it was very quiet, very slow moving. How big it was, I couldn't tell you, but I just know it was mass enough, kind of going, wow. Because you could see it would block out the stars as it moved across, and then it faded.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said that when you saw that, the crickets and stuff. So you didn't hear any insect noise at all?
There was no cricket noise, no animal noise. I lived out where we were at. We were away from the city.
Yeah.
So there was no sounds, that wind. Yeah, everything was just quiet.
Almost like they all knew it in mass. That there's something going on, and they just stopped.
And for those people who don't live in the country, they don't understand how loud the country can actually be at night.
Very loud. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
noise. There's noise.
Now, of course, I told that to my parents the next morning, which you can imagine the look I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more watching those movies for you.
That's right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But that would happen every now and then. And it would be a different path. It would be a different shape, and it wasn't like on a nightly or weekly basis. It was just every month or so, something else, and you kind of get that sensation that it's just kind of like the air changes.
Right.
It was really weird.
Kind of electric feel in the air or something?
A little bit like that. It was definitely one of those where, I mean, you could even sense a temperature change.
Really? Well, that
was something off. And I'm very sensitive to that anyway, because if I don't have the temperature like in my house exact, it's something.
You know it. Yeah.
You know it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, having been in the Air Force, looking back on it now, could it have possibly been some type of military vehicle?
Yeah, maybe something new they were trying out.
Now, I'm trying to think now that this was like the 90s.
Yeah.
When I was over there. So knowing what I know now, obviously being exposed to it. I mean, did we have drones and stuff like that back then? Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the B-2, the stealth bomb? No,
right.
It definitely wasn't, because the B-2 cannot move that slow and just kind of it cannot do that, nor can the F-117. Now, is there other stuff that I know we probably have out there now? Sure. but not back in the 90s, at least that I was aware of at that time.
So
This was just definite, very, very odd that it was just nothing was recognizable. There wasn't the standard red and green lights to signify what side of the aircraft was what. This was straight out just light.
light.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next experience that you remember.
Well, the biggest one. Now, I had a couple others when I was in Alaska. To what you were saying, I heard you guys mention earlier. I don't know whether that was Bigfoot throwing stuff or other things I heard going on, but Lord knows anything could happen up there. But one of them was at a base I was stationed at on the East Coast.
Wait. Bigfoot? Did you say Bigfoot?
You got his attention with Bigfoot, okay?
Well, yeah, no, with Bigfoot, I mean, I think that is cool. I don't know if I've actually encountered one or not, but you get that feeling you're being watched and you know it's not a person.
Right.
And where I was at up there, I mean, you're gonna know if it's a grizzly, you're gonna know if it's a moose or a wolf or something like that that's stalking. It's kind of a distinctive. This wasn't, and where we're at, we were so far out that you don't go in the woods by yourself at night.
Okay.
There was always stories of stuff happening.
Was this when you were in the military or when you were a kid?
Yeah. No. This was up in Alaska.
All right, well,
you said Alaska, yeah. Well, military. Yeah.
But something happened. Are you saying something happened?
Oh, every now and then you'd be driving on patrol, just kind of checking out the back end of the base and everything. And sometimes you'd occasionally get stuff thrown at you, and you think maybe it's the wind going across blowing stuff because it would be pretty gusty through there. But the only reason why I started becoming more in tune with it is one night we were going to play a prank on a buddy of ours whose birthday was coming up. And one of the guys that said, "Hey, let's go rent one of those little gorilla costumes, from the store up in town, 100 miles away. Let's go do that, and then we'll come up and sneak up on him." At first, it was a great idea, but then one of the guys that found out about it goes, "Don't do that." Like, why? He says, "Just don't do that."
He didn't tell you why.
Not? He says, one, he might shoot you, but two.
Well, yeah, that's not good.
There's too many things around here like that. I'm like, "What do you mean things around here like that?" And he goes, "Just don't do it." I'm like, "Okay." Okay. Wow. And there was stuff that would pop up on the cameras every now and then that we would have to go investigate. They would look like someone moving across, on the thermals.
Yeah.
Couldn't pick up anything.
On the base.
We'd go out there. There was nobody there. Yeah.
On the base.
Yeah.
That's not the first Bigfoot story I've heard that's happened on military bases.
Well, he's not saying it's Bigfoot, though.
Well, okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, right. Now here's the thing. I would have, natural assumption. I would say that.
But a civilian,
no signs.
A civilian would.
A civilian wouldn't be on the base.
No, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's
not where we were at. No.
Wow.
And plus,
if
you're looking
there
at
was someone out that far, there's something wrong.
Yeah, you're looking at thermal imaging, so you can see there's definitely something there. You just know what it is, and so you're investigating to see what it is.
And when you got there, there was nothing there.
Nothing there.
Yeah, wow.
Nothing there.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, hey, I got a Bigfoot story, and
there you go. When are you expecting that? Bigfoot and UFO in the same story, man. Yeah, life is good.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us about the big one, the one that blew your mind, blew my mind when you told me.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
So
I hadn't heard this.
Where I was at, and of course, I'll leave the base nameless, but
all right.
There's several of us that are still out about. I still in contact with them. They were all there this night. But
so this is a multiple sighting. I mean, you weren't the only one to see this. Okay.
Oh yes, correct. I would say, I mean, just on our shift alone, there was probably a good 20 some odd people. There's probably more than that because there was a lot of people on the base that saw this. But yeah, this was up on the East Coast. We had been sent over there to help them out because they were short manned due to a bunch of deployments that were going on. And I worked the swing shift, so from basically 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. And we were on what they, the flight line and what they call the there's some areas called the hammerhead or the mass parking areas. And so we were where they park all the aircraft, and we were getting ready to kind of close up shop for our shift. And this was around, God, I'm trying to remember now. I want to say it was around August. Maybe September, because that was around the time I was up there, because I remember it was super humid. But we were just hanging out, we're talking, wrapping up shift, no big deal. And where we were positioned at, you can see the whole flight line. You can see all the parking areas of the aircraft. You can see the air traffic control tower. over there. I mean, you can see everything. Everything's lit up. We're good to go. Well, we're getting ready, and suddenly you start feeling this sensation in the air that something's off.
Kind of like
Your
it
breathing
was
kind of gets a little bit hard.
when
What's
you were,
that?
kind of like it was when you were a kid.
A little bit, yeah. It didn't really click with me, but something felt off because I remember we all kind of stopped talking. It's like, whoa, hold on, what's going on? You guys notice that? And we thought maybe it's just a pressure system coming in.
Mm-hmm.
All this happened within just a matter of minutes, and it goes from that sensation to just kind of noticing the radios are starting to static. The vehicle's kind of messing up. One of the guys like, hey, I can't get through over to control, which was basically dispatch. I said, okay, well, let me call them up. I flipped my phone open, and it's nothing. It's like not even receiving a tower. There's nothing. It's nothing. I'm like, what in the world? Okay, try your phone. Everybody else was trying their phone. Next thing we know, we hear over the radio, air traffic control towers calling over the security net going, hey, does anybody got visual? Anybody got visual? We are losing comms up here.
So your electronic equipment was going crazy.
Yeah, everything was on the fritz and shutting down. It wasn't like going bloop, 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 flashing and all that stuff. It was just literally shutting down. And at one point, we started trying to do the communication with the lights because there's a certain system you can use on the flight line. If the radios don't work, you can do basically Morse code essentially.
Yeah.
But there's a system to use. That was kind of not even working full power.
Huh.
As we're talking, we're like, okay, something's up. And of course, we're all looking around. And that same sensation I was talking about earlier, like with the crickets and everything, it all stops. Everything stops. There's no sound. There's no wind. It's just silence.
Wow.
And this is probably about 9 o'clock ish, because like I said, our shift ends at 10. So we're sitting there, and it's just that uncomfortable feeling. You get the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. And you're kind of going, okay, what's that? We're all looking up. Of course, we're kind of picking up our long rifles. We're going, okay, something's up. And as we turn, we look over towards, kind of surveying the flight line to see if anything's going out there. Not all the lights shut off, but majority of them did. But then in just that quick, this is all a matter of just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So as we're doing this, we look up and you can feel almost like this little breeze, kind of like this pressure change. And we all look at the same time because we just turn and face the flight line right in between us and the tower.
How many folks are there right now in your little group, your immediate group?
There's about 4 of us because it was 3 patrols. One of them is just a 1-person patrol.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many were up in the tower. I mean, that can vary for their shifts. So we're all kind of spread out, mostly 1 or 2 man patrols, but we kind of look and you can all of a sudden just kind of just out of it seemed like nowhere. You see this huge object just lower. And you can see it, you can hear this humming. And it didn't just kind of like, like in cartoons, they just drop and there it is. No, it just came down. And it's probably more than maybe 20, 50 feet off the ground, something like that. We're standing probably 50 yards away, 100 yards away, something like that. It was within a football field. We could clearly see it.
So you're very close to it.
Oh yeah, we're looking straight at it. The funny thing is there was like a soft light about it. It had, dark undertones and everything like that, as far as color schemes. But the rest of it, there was no markings, no tail numbers, no nothing like that. And it just sat there.
What did it look like?
You could hear it just kind of, and that was it. But nothing was working. All electronics at that point just went.
Well, what kind of shape was it?
Yeah.
This one was more in the shape of kind of a traditional UFO in the sense it was very spherical, but it almost looked kind of like a, I say spherical, not spherical, excuse me, disc-like. But it had a disc. Yeah, like a pancake, but it kind of had a big dome kind of going on top of it a little bit more. But it had kind of a silver metallic to it, but it was huge. I can't even really tell you how big it was.
So bigger than anything you've seen in the Air Force?
Well, I mean, I've seen some big stuff in the Air Force.
Yeah.
But this was big enough that, I mean, you'd have to be blind to not see this.
Yeah.
in front of. I know what the tower is probably looking at it because you can just everything just stopped.
Yeah, they're going nuts. I'm sure in the tower trying to figure out what the hell is this? You know?
Yeah, we're just kind of standing there, and it's like, what do we do? What the heck? Do we, draw a weapon? What the heck do we do? But it's like you get this sensation of just, this feeling of don't do anything.
Well, that's very familiar.
Yeah.
In almost every show we've ever done,
That's
something
odd.
like people,
Yeah.
you freeze. You kind of you stop, and you're just like, okay, I don't know what to do.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, what could you do?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, they're armed. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
but
You know,
I mean-
I'm thinking, and he's like Jay is saying, he's gonna know. Well, do we shoot on this thing? Do we? But you need to know what it is first. That's the first thing. What is this?
What was going through your mind, Jay?
Kind of. You're gonna laugh at this.
Uh-oh.
You're really gonna laugh at this. It's kind of like when you go deer hunting for the first time, and you see that big, beautiful buck, and you're like, there it is. There's the trophy. That's it right there.
Oh wow.
And you see it, and you're like, but I can't pull the trigger. Oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. And you get that kind of moment of just, it was mesmerizing, to say the least.
Yeah.
It was very hypnotic, kind of looking at it going,
like something.
Am I really seeing this?
Yeah, like something magnificent.
You know what?
That's what I'm
I
thinking.
passed out on ship. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm asleep right now because there's no way in the hell this is truly happening in front of us.
Wow.
That's another thing
Wow.
that happens to a lot of people we've talked to is that immediately once they experience something like that, immediately their brain starts trying to figure out what this is and put it into things that we can understand.
Yeah, trying to figure out. Yeah, it's got to be something I can relate this to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can understand that. Well, what happened? I mean, did it just sit there or what?
It hovered over the ground. You could see it was kind of rotating, but it was doing so sleek, like that you couldn't. It's almost like it wasn't moving, but it just stood there. Nothing came out. You didn't see any lights come out, emit from it, like searching or anything like that. It just hovered there. It was just kind of one of those. In my mind, I'm going, okay, we need to do something, but what do we do? I'm kind of frozen. Where's this going? What is it doing? It's not even emitting the sounds, but you can feel the pressure changing and everything like that. And so,
I mean,
this goes on.
You can't hear the humming anymore?
No, you can hear that. There's no other sound.
Oh, I see.
that's all you can hear.
Okay, all right.
And this seemed like to go on for an eternity, but in fact is probably 5 minutes.
That's
Probably
a long
less than 10.
time.
That's a long time.
That's
yeah.
a long.
Still a long time to be standing there like
Good
looking
Lord.
at something and not.
And there's no communication on the base going on right now, so you're not getting any orders or anything like that.
Nope. Electronics, everything that we're using, cell phones, everything, nothing is working.
Now you said there's
Absolutely.
like four people in your group, something like that. What are you guys? Are you saying anything to each other? Are you looking at each other? What's going on there?
Oh yeah, we're looking at each other, kind of one of those. And some of these, a couple of these guys, I've been serving with for a while, and so we can pretty much. It's one of those we can read each other's minds for the most part. We know what each other's thinking, and we're just kind of looking at each other, looking back. And I knew they were afterwards. They were saying, they were thinking the same things. Like, what the heck is this?
Well, I know what would happen if it were Harold and I. There'd be a lot of swearing going on.
No, I would.
Well,
I would probably freeze just
I
like
imagine
that too.
so, because it might be like one of those. It's kind of a. In something like that, there's two movements. There's a bowel movement and a physical movement. Like run.
Well, I'm not gonna have a BM. I'm gonna tell you that. That ain't gonna be no bowel movement, okay? But I would probably do what you just did. I'd probably stand there and go like, "What is this?" And not move. I would probably freeze, like when you're a little kid, you freeze in the bed because you think this is my safe spot. If I don't move, nothing will happen.
He can't see me.
Yeah, you can't see. And that's probably what I would do. I would stand there very still and just watch this and say, "Okay, you can't see me. I'm gonna see what this thing does, whatever it is."
Right up to the moment that the Rat Man walk out.
Well,
of
if a Rat
spaceship.
Man walked out, I might take off then. Okay, but if it dropped, millions of rats on us, that would be hell for me. Okay, I'm telling you right now, man. Gosh.
Well, then what ultimately happened?
After what seemed like forever, we started just kind of getting we're just still stuck in amazement, and then just as quickly as it showed up, it spun a little bit faster, and then it kind of lifted up a little bit more, and then just like a snap of a finger, it probably went up maybe 20 feet, and then
it just took off that fast.
That was it. The moment it was gone, though, the kicker of it all was lights popped on all across the base.
Everything was stored. Wow.
The lights came back on. Our cell phones started beeping of missed messages and things like that. The vehicle started operating again. It's like, okay, So that happened. Now what? You know, and no, at this point we wanted to kind of start going, dude, you know, you would imagine that. This was much more of a kind of a confident, like, okay, we got this. At the same time going, no, no, we're going to try to reason this way. We're just going to kind of let this sink in. And not a whole lot of words were spoken. Now here's what was really solidified what we saw. I crack up about this because we went ahead and collected all of our stuff. We looked around. We got, you know, towers start relaying. We have cons back up. You know, everything's back up. So it's time for shift change. We go in because we're on a mobile patrol. We go rolling in, and we get to the armor. We turn our stuff in, and unbeknownst to me, others that already beaten us to it, you know, it already came in, turned stuff in, was heading out. The four of us, I want to say there's about 4 or 5 of us, when we got our stuff done, we were turning around to leave, and our flight chief goes, no, I need you guys to go over this way. You know, like, what do you mean? I said, we need you guys to go through this room over here. There's, you know, some gentlemen that need to talk to you. And we're all looking at you going, for what? It's 10, you know, it's 10:15 at now. Well, shit, what are you talking about?
Were they dressed in black?
Were this suited men? Or not in military garb?
Well, yeah, we didn't even start to go until our colonel showed up. And he's like, get your butts in there right now and don't come out until you're done. I'm like, okay. So we go meandering in there, and yeah, there were some gentlemen in there. They were all dressed up in suits. And I know that sounds hard to believe, but they were very odd looking. And they had these sheets of paper in front of us that you need to sign this. I'm like, what is this? Are you guys here about what happened? They're like, what happened? Sign the paperwork, please. I'm like, I ain't signed squat. You know that whole thing. I'm like, no.
I don't know what I'm signing.
This. Yeah. I know what's going on here.
I don't know what's on that paper. Yeah.
It's one of those, you either sign or you're not leaving. Wow. And it was said in a tone of very matter of fact, where it's kind of one of those, okay,
you're not leaving this spot until you sign this. Wow.
Exactly. So, you know, and it was this very weird. Now, the funny thing is fast forward a little bit further, you know, watching some shows with my wife and everything, I'm like looking up, and they're always talking about Men in Black and how I'm like, holy crap, I ran into those guys. And then it dawned on me who I was, you know, what we had seen.
Yeah.
And that was the strange thing about it for me. Now, afterwards, that was it. Yeah. Nobody talked about it, even though you walked into when we still resumed our shift. We were there for a few more months. Everybody knew. You could see it. Everybody had that look on their face. But once we went our separate ways, we actually ended up catching up to each other at a couple other bases in training. And they said, you know, there's a few of us that were approached us to basically say if we were talking about it, forget it. You know, there will be repercussions.
That's what the paper said. It said, do not talk about this.
Yeah, basically it was what you would consider like a non-disclosure kind of thing. But I don't even remember what was all in it. It was just the whole fear of the fact that the way they said it's like you to sign or this. I'm like, okay, hey, look, you know, at the time I was married. I had two. I'm like, no, you know what? It ain't worth it.
Yeah, I mean, just sign this and get out of here.
Yeah, I'm out of here. But it stuck around with me. And fast forward a few more years, like I said, I ran into him later on, and we will sit around with, you know, a beer every now and then, or, you know, when we're hanging out, I was like, dude, you remember that night? I'm like, yeah, that still baffles me. And what really strikes me as most of what we saw and experienced that night is, you know, shows stuff that's happened over in England, stuff that's happened in other bases. I'm like, that's exactly what happened to us.
Wow.
The thing is we weren't like you know, it wasn't a nuclear facility or anything like that. It was just, it was weird. Well, but I remember after it left, though, the one thing I remember is like what I said earlier, you know, the temperature went back to like normal, the wind picked back up, the whole environment went basically back to normal.
Well, here's my thing. Here's my issue with that. It's so odd that so many of these UFO reports happen on military facilities. I know there's a military base in Florida up in the Panhandle, and I'll just say it because I wasn't in the military there or anything like that, but Eglin Air Force Base. My daughter grew up in that area, and she says that there's all kinds of unidentified flying objects sighted over that air base. So either it's got to be some kind of advanced technology that our military has that they don't want anybody to know about, or it's an enemy here on this planet that has advanced technology that the our military doesn't want anybody knowing about, or it's something that we have no idea where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the
No,
only.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Because even at another base on the East Coast I was stationed at, I used to live near it, near the water, and just kind of being outside. And I remember one night, me and my girlfriend we were just hanging out, sitting out on kind of the packed patio. You can look over the bay and everything like that, where you can see the ships, all and everything like that. And I'll never forget, one night we were sitting there, we spit our beer out because we're like, holy crap, what is that? And you can see this glowing in the water, and then it just pops up out of the water from a distance. And when I say distance, it was probably about the size of a pea from our range.
Where you saw,
It's the middle of the harbor area. Pops up, kind of moves around, and then literally just gone. And I'm going, okay, number one, that's not a missile or anything like that, because they don't move like that, for one. But I'm like, okay, yeah, we just saw that.
Well,
and so that's happened there. And there's other bases I know that they were out there, because some of my friends, they were fortunate enough, because one of the things in the Air Force, depending on where you get you're stationed at, sometimes when you're like, oh man, I can't wait to get there, there's going to be they're one of those bases that once you get there, you don't leave there. You know what I mean? It's one of those, because of the nature of it.
Yeah,
you're there, you retire there.
You retire there. You don't
stay, and that's it.
That's your last deployment right there.
Yeah, and fortunately, one of the guys I was stationed with, at a base in the Midwest, he happened to come from one, and we got on the subject of things, and this is prior to the one on the East Coast, but we'd get on subjects like this. Of course, when you're trying to pass the time on the 12-hour night shift, but we would see weird things pop up over our base, lights, clusters of lights. Things would wreak havoc a little bit with our radio systems. They would go right over the top of the runway sometimes, over some of the buildings, and then just gone. But he was sitting there telling, and he never seemed fazed by it. That's what struck me as odd. I'm like, you don't find this amazing? He goes, it's nothing new to me. And
I was going to say, probably sees it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and he told us, well, he happened to know the right people and got him out of one of the bases, and he told me a few things that he was so matter of fact about it, and he was like, holy crap, seeing stuff exactly like what we're talking about there. Not to mention the fact, you guys remember the movie Short Circuit?
Oh yeah,
okay. And he got to mention about that. He goes, I was like, oh yeah, I freaking love Johnny Five.
Johnny Five,
more input, right? And he's like, yeah, we have those already, and they were at my base. I'm like, what? He goes, oh yeah, and he would draw these things out, and he described them, and then everybody looked at me as he was kooky, but he would even share stories about hangars with big, large, black, thick curtains that
So this
you're posted there, and you don't know. You don't do anything. You just make sure nobody comes in.
You're only told what you need to know. That's it. You're not told everything. You just
smile and wave.
That's
right.
All you need exactly. To do. Yeah.
So this thing that you guys saw at your base could very well have been ours. Possibly.
I don't know. It could be, but I know at that time, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge military buff, and ever since I was a kid, so that was one thing my parents used to always laugh about, because I would sit there instead of, aside from comics, I would dive into Jane's fighting ships and start memorizing ships, Jane's fighting aircraft. I'd start doing all that. And I know, like, during World War II, we had technology we were trying to work on to try, the flapjack and a few others, where we were trying to mimic the technology, but we just couldn't. And then suddenly there's this big boom, World War II saw a big boom of tech, and then tech and advancement that was like, whoa, what the heck? So could it have been ours? If I was to put like a percentage on it, I would say maybe a 20%, maybe 30% chance that it could be ours. Majority of it, no. There was something about this that was just
it was just technology.
And then the aftermath, that was like, these guys didn't even look real. That was the funny thing.
I've heard that before about these men in black. They don't even look like normal human beings for some, and nobody can ever pinpoint why. What it is about them that looks so strange.
They were never there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They were never here. We were never here. What are you talking about? You're not talking to anybody. Wow.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that that's always stuck with me.
Well, I wonder,
even overseas on deployments, there's been things that I look up and nobody else is paying attention to it, and you're looking at going, is anybody else saying this? Nope. Everybody's either choosing to ignore it, or they're explaining it away, and there's just something in your gut. You're looking at it going, I don't know. Now, tell you stuff. Could it be? Yes, I've seen some of the drones that we do have. You know, could it be a possibility? Yes, but for something to be that silent and create and shut down everything, I don't know.
That's a pretty cool. That's a pretty awesome weapon to be able to shut down all like. Now, you said it even made the cars, the vehicles, shut down.
Yeah, everything, anything that was like electronic, everything.
That sounds like War of the Worlds.
Start
stuff.
up anything. It was just done. Yeah, radio, everything was done.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, that just
it could be. And I tell you this,
coming from you, it sounds so matter of fact. I mean, it's just if I saw, I really don't know how I would react if I saw something like this so clear, so close.
Yeah,
that would be.
It would be, like I say, I would be stunned. Initially, like, what is this? Trying to figure out what. Like you're standing there, you're trying to figure out what it is. What is that? And I will say this: a show I was watching, everything that Jay has said is very familiar because he was there were military people that said the same thing you are saying to us right now. And I'll even further, there was a segment in it, they were talking about some of the technology that they were using. The military didn't tell their own people about. They were just trying this, stuff, but they made them, they put out that, okay, these are UFOs, so that our enemies, or whoever
won't know that we have the technology.
Exactly. Yeah. They didn't want them to know that we had the technology, or we're trying, or working on this technology. They didn't want them to know.
Well, that's some pretty heavy tech.
You don't want to lose like tactical advantage.
Exactly. So
I totally get that.
Like you say, I'm with you. It's probably about a 20-30% chance of that being the truth.
Well, here's the thing. As far as we know, there is no technology
that we know
of now that can make a vehicle hover. And the vehicle is rotating.
Yeah. Like you say, that we know about. I mean, it may be out there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And we don't have any technology that we know of that can just kill all the electronics.
Yeah. Which would be that's an unbelievable weapon.
Okay, well, we do, but it doesn't come back on. That's the kicker that I'm aware of.
You're talking about
you got
EMP.
EMPs,
EMPs.
That's
different.
Like that, you're fried and done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we do have that technology. That's been around for a little while.
Yeah. That's a completely different.
Yeah, but like you say, it doesn't come back on. You're right. It doesn't come.
But as far as I know, without propellers or jets, we don't have the ability to fly. Even drones,
and to be that silent.
Yeah, drones have to have propellers. Yeah, or even the big military drones. Those are jets that are run by AI and computers and whatnot.
Yeah,
they can't just hover, can they?
Some of them can, yes. The ones we have nowadays, they have evolved to that point. Yes, they can.
The ones with jets? Really?
What's that?
The ones with jet engines and stuff can just hover like that.
Oh, well, yeah, they can, but they're not going to be that silent. That I know. Again, I'm retired. I'm no longer in that, so I would know only what I do research.
The silent part wouldn't be part of it. They might be able to do it.
I do know that
you'd hear it.
Right, but they also do have the technology is out there now where, especially like with helicopters, for example, they have it where they can articulate the rotor blades just enough where it kills all sound.
Really?
You cannot hear anything. Now, the only difference is you're still going to feel that blast of wind, obviously, that a helicopter is going to generate.
Right.
Yeah.
So to say in that context, someone has asked for, and I shared it with them, like, oh, you sure it wasn't, one of these? I'm like, no, it wasn't, because if that's the case, then all the wind would be kicking up. And in this case, that night, there was nothing.
And it was
no wind.
It was rotating. You said it was disc shaped.
Yeah, it was
and it was rotating.
The whole craft was like just kind of just rotating around, almost like what is that little playground piece of equipment, the one that just spins. You hang on for dear life. Hopefully you don't get thrown when they're spinning it.
Oh,
that's all it's doing. It's just sitting there just spinning. And how fast it was, I don't know, but you could definitely see it spinning.
But normally you feel wind, you feel some kind of air, you feel something, and the fact that you didn't feel any, there was nothing,
So they were using some kind of electrical technology or magnetic technology or
they're using technology we don't know
something
about,
like that interferes with electronics of some type. That's scary,
and
man.
affects the atmosphere at the same time.
Here's the thing: is that this stuff is apparently over the last year or so really been kind of ramping up. From what I can tell. Have you noticed in the news and stuff like that? Jay, that reports are becoming more frequent in the
Yeah,
military?
and I'm a little bit of a, I like to dabble sometimes on, the conspiracy side a little bit here and there, or just kind of look at things from a different perspective. Because I remember at one point, and I will never forget this, it was so funny. I was working as a consultant, military consultant at one point on a production set, and one guy I've been working with, and I was just really
Wait a minute,
impressed with the way
production.
he was handling
Are
himself.
you talking
What's
about a
that?
movie set?
Yeah, I
Okay.
helped out. That's where I had kind of
Okay.
a couple of my call signs.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But
All right.
I would go and do that just for fun,
Yeah.
because
sure.
I enjoy that kind of stuff. And one of the guys I was working with, he was another consultant was brought in. And I remember he had pulled me aside on the last day of production stuff. And he's like, hey, so he brought a buddy of mine over that had been in the military for a while. He was a reservist. And we were just kind of chatting. He goes, look, over the past 2 weeks now, I've been really impressed with you guys. And so the more we got to know each other, I want to let you know on some stuff. Have you ever thought about trying to expand on changing career fields? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And that's when he starts going, well, if you're interested, especially, you seem to like history and intelligence. And they go, oh yeah, I very much enjoy that because it's amazing to me what's all involved with it. He goes, all right. So I'll tell you what, if you're interested, he said, call me at this number. You can give me, I said, just wrote it. I said, call me at this number. If you, it said, pardon the expression, but Alice in Wonderland, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, we can. But just so you know, once you're in, and that's it.
Yikes.
So just be prepared for the fact everything you think you know, everything you read in the books, everything you read in history that we've talked about over the past 2 weeks, be prepared for the fact that that's not it.
That all goes out the window.
I'm like, of course, naturally, me, I'm like, oh, dude, give me the red pill. Heck yeah, actually.
And this guy's name was Morpheus, right? Lieutenant Morpheus, I'm with you.
Exactly. But it was funny. Of course, I was engaged. And at this point, I was, I had already, I had divorced, but I was engaged. This was several years later.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of want to, because I know she'd probably get a kick. Oh, wait a second, I can't tell her that.
You won't be able to tell her.
I can't, because I might wind up dead. Just like no, okay. So I thought about it, but I ended up passing it on. But I still had the guy's number because it's always ringing in my head anytime I see stuff on the news. And so, to your point, I was seeing more of the release. The more I'm looking at this, going, there's a lot more truth that I think is out there.
Oh yeah,
a lot more to what we're saying that you cannot explain. Some stuff maybe we can explain. It is so simple, but the human mind being able to comprehend, if we would just rip the veil off, go, ha ha, here we go. I think it would blow people's minds. It would cause a lot of stuff. So in order to circumvent that, instances like what we're seeing and going, you can't deny it. Everybody saw it. It's too many people. So what do? You do it little by little. Oh, acknowledge. Yeah, that exists. We don't know much about it, but you do it a little bit at a time. And when you do that, you're controlling the flow of information to the point you get people accustomed to it. You get them conditioned.
Do you think that's what's going on right now?
I think so.
With them releasing all of that they're trying to get people accustomed to the fact that stuff just isn't the way you were taught it is?
I would say that is a pretty fair guess.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but I'd say that's definitely far more than 20%.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what's going on, because we're probably getting to a point where you can't really hide this stuff and explain while we're this, far advanced. Because I know there are some at one base I was at, there were some whistleblowers. Obviously, I won't tell you, but they did go up. They got in trouble for it because they were trying to reveal a safety issue, because some of the technology and some of the equipment that we have out there is so far advanced. They're trying to tell everybody, going, this is so far advanced, we don't even understand it, and it's going to kill someone. Slow down. And so, do I think that's probably what's going on? Yeah. The more it's kind of like getting accustomed to a new living environment. For those who never lived in Texas, or people that live out in the desert, or various other climates, you don't get used to it right off the bat. If you try to do it, you're gonna, overwhelm yourself. But over time, you kind of do it little by little. You become acclimated and conditioned.
That's what
you're like.
Conditioned. That's the word.
People
right
do
there.
it. People adapt, man. You adapt. I mean, they need to trust us. Now I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know every single thing. And if you think you do, then you're an idiot. You don't need to know everything that's going on. I mean, but there are some things we can be trusted with. People, because like I said, people adapt, man. They won't go crazy. And I think that's what they're worried about. People losing their minds and saying, Oh, it's not what we thought it was. Well, I firmly believe that we are not the only sentient beings in this whole universe. You telling me in this whole universe that we are the only intelligent, life?
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. That's there's
You
gotta
have to be pretty close-minded to.
I mean, I just don't believe that at all.
But let me give you a quick example before we wrap things up here. I understand if the military does know about all this stuff.
Yeah, and they do.
And I'm not just including UFOs, but Bigfoot and stuff like that. A lot of people say that our government has known about Bigfoot forever. But if they do know about it, which they probably do, I understand why they keep it from people for a lot of various reasons. Because just for example, and I don't want to get political here or anything like that, but coronavirus, the very simple thing of wear a mask.
Yeah.
Now I understand all the ins and outs of that, and I'm not going to get into pro wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. That's not what this show's all about. But just watching the divide of people who take each side of that and are at each other's throats about it. Can you imagine what would happen if our government came out and said, yes, there are aliens living among us? There would be half the people on this planet would be trying to kill them, and the other half would be trying to, take me with you, that sort of thing. So
either that or they would be going, ha ha, I knew that person was.
I knew he was weird. I knew that dude was weird, man. He's a strange cat. Something wrong with him. People
on a whole are okay individually, but when you get them in a group and they're like-minded, they can become very dangerous.
Yeah.
So I understand. I understand why they're not just divulging the information that they have. And it could cause panic as well. And here's the big one. This is the reason why I think, honestly, why they don't tell us everything is because some of the stuff that would explain some of these phenomenon might fly in the face of religion. You know what I'm saying?
Could. And because it's all about the control factor.
That's exactly right.
Economic, political, or anything like that. There's a lot of that. I would imagine. And over the years, that's something I've kind of looked at as well. What I experienced in my time going, I know this is well above my pay grade, but hey, you know what? One of these dogs don't hunt.
Yeah.
And it's something, you kind of put two things together at that point and go, oh, all right, something's up, but we'll just play this one out. Well, Jay, I agree with that.
Jay, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you sharing your story. And I know since you've signed a disclosure and everything like that, it's probably good we didn't give your real name.
Because we wanted you to be sure and get out of that room, man. Because if we use your real name, you will be able to leave this room right now.
Well,
I'll tell you what, I got a lot of other stories too. Some stuff there, a couple of the bases I was at that were very, very historical and what they played their role in history. And
oh wow,
there's some stuff over there.
Well, I tell you what, Jay. How about you come back in the future? We'll do a follow-up episode on this sometime. Okay.
What does this relate? Does this relate to more UFOs or is it more?
A little bit of everything. I know one place, they had to have a psych eval every about 3 months. So
really,
wow, yeah, we're definitely gonna have you back talking about that. Okay,
thank you, Jay. You've just made yourself a recurring guest,
on the show, on the Price Presley Spook Show. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Jay. Stay on the line, and I'll talk to you after the show ends, folks. If you like the stories, if you like listening to our podcast, please leave a comment. Either on YouTube or go to our Facebook page, leave us a comment, or send us an email. And we'd like to hear your story. Heck, even if you just want to give us some pointers on what you thought was good about the show or what you thought maybe wasn't as good about the show. Harold and I are open-minded people. We obviously, since we're doing this show, but we've never done a podcast before, and this is our very first one, so we don't mind taking some creative criticism. Yeah. But leave us a comment. Talk to us.
PricePresleyShow@gmail.com.
That's right. And again, there's a Linktree link.
You'll see it right here. If you're watching, you can see it you can see it there. But if you go to any of these places, there'll be a link. you know, and
Yeah.
you can go to anywhere,
Yep.
you know, with it.
Just remember, look for us, the Spook Show. And
Hey,
what is it? Presley Spook Show on Facebook.
Yes.
Is that right?
And we're even on TikTok, people.
That's right.
You know, there's lots of TikTok videos up there. Terry loves doing TikToks. Okay, he's the TikTok king.
Hey, you know, anything I can do to publicize the show.
But no, it's anything you can do to make fun of me. That's what you're doing. Let's be clear about that. Let's be clear. Yeah,
I do enjoy it. Well, listen, folks, that's about all the time we have for this episode
Yes.
of the Spook Show. We hope that you'll leave us a like and subscribe to our YouTube page and leave us a comment. Send us your stories and just talk to us. We want to hear from you. I'm Terry Price.
I'm Harold Presley.
Don't get spooked.